Okay, another Wednesday, another devlog time. We have three major topics today. More steps have been implemented in the tutorials or in the tutorial. Let's get started with that. Let's start the tutorial from scratch. We are taking a few shortcuts so that we can move forward as the developers. We can move forward faster in the implementation. So Dave is welcoming us, and he's instructing you with the basic camera moves. And if you have been following our dev streams and our previous devlogs, he's giving you basic tasks to walk you through the game interface. So your first two tasks are harvesting some stuff from the garden, which is this, and also putting a dead carrot plant into the compost unit. This is going to look in dead condition and also visually presented. Those are fine detailed things we'll take care of later. We are implementing the bulk of tutorial at this point. The carrot has now been moved to the compost unit, and Dave is asking you to call him. So I believe there is supposed to be a screen. Maybe we bypass that. So call Dave. Sorry, the ringtone is a bit loud, but we call Dave, and he's basically saying, "Well, feel free to consume what we just harvested." So as the scenario goes, Dave is going to stay abroad for a while, but he doesn't know how long. So he says, call him tomorrow. So here's where we are teaching calendar mechanics. So we'll wait one day. So we sleep. So the next morning, uh, we get a phone call from Dave, and he's saying that he got the job. So he's going to have to stay during summer. Um, so he has a lot to think about. So we'll talk later. So maybe we sleep another night in his house. We've been watching TV in his house. And we are inspired to grow 50 kilos of tomatoes. That's what the scenario is. And because we don't know anything about gardening, we'll call him. And he's going to walk us through how to plant his garden or in his garden. So we'll go to the market screen to buy some seedlings. Um, these screens have to be redone visually. But since you want to grow a particular kind of tomato, we took the liberty to make that selection for you. Um, this interface really has seen better days, but we'll fix it anyway. He's basically saying, well, you just made the right choice and you can pick different things, read the details, but eventually you'll have to go and buy it, or in this case, online. So he's describing how the buying mechanism works. This is something we have discussed in previous streams, that you're not buying stuff from one particular manufacturer. Rephrase that. In real life, you would go to a manufacturer's website, you would be browsing different products supplied by that. Here, since you know what you want to buy, you are seeing offers by different suppliers. So you don't have to go and visit their products one by one. Here you are selecting maybe the best offer, taking into account the delivery time and the quality of product, that sort of. So he's basically saying cheap is not always better. Sometimes it arrives at your door quite late. But let's say we want to buy this batch, seedlings or seeds. We'll change the item description here. Um, Here is where you confirm your shopping cart, because you may add multiple orders from the same supplier, or you could actually order from multiple suppliers because maybe one supplier won't have enough items or enough stock for that particular. You confirm, and now the order will arrive in 15 days. You have to be patient. Dave is telling you to be patient, which means You can fast forward time. Oh, we sleep, we wake up, and passage of time. We'll maybe put an upper limit to the number of seconds that the player has to wait, because if you fast forward a month or two, you are waiting for each day to do its solar cycle, and it might be a long wait. So now we've got some stuff. Let's open our inventory. We are going to find the seed that we want. In this case, it might have been populated at the bottom. In the future, you could, I think we have a basic sorting here anyway, but you could be a bit more particular about the way you sort your inventory. But this is what we are going to place in our garden. We should have had seedling, but we are just showing the number in the seeds section here. But think about it as seedling for now. Icon here is missing, which will we are working out the icons again. They will be here, but this is the planting icon. And this is where we are teaching how to place items in the world. So he's saying you will be seeing available spots in multiple areas. We will have different raised beds, different trellises, maybe flat beds as well. So we are now seeing available spots. Could be selecting anywhere we want, or anywhere that is made available to us, because something that occupies this much space in the future will limit it, so it won't be available in this back spots, because it'll be sort of cut off. Those spots are reserved for taller and climby type. But for the tutorial sake, say it's all available. We'll do that, of course, in the next. And now we are officially an urban farmer. We know how to buy stuff, plant stuff. We've covered the most basics. This is an older screen, which is sort of creeping up there. And now, title here is wrong, clearly. But now that you planted some stuff, you got to take care of it. You need to give water to our plant. And the water mechanics is David was explaining. You can either use tap water or rain barrel. In this case, we are going to utilize tap water. Um, this is still something that we are working out, whether we'll let the player choose a custom amount of water, uh, how much water the player is wanting to give to this plant. This may turn into a guess game too. Maybe we'll pre-calculate the required amount for this plant to be, let's say, not thirsty, whether you have that much water or not. In the case of tap water, we'll assume you have an infinite amount of water, but of course, it costs the player money. And in the case of rain barrel, maybe you have a limited amount of water. Either way, the plant needs a minimum amount of water to quench the thirst. So those values will be tracked here. I'll actually come to the thirst mechanics soon, right after I'm done with the tutorial. So let's say we are giving 300 milliliters. So just got the water. It's done. Um, Maybe there's actually a minimum thing that Jordan put here. Or that he might have got to a certain point in the tutorial that the next step is not sure. But I think, oh, okay, I think I remember what he did. Now that we are watering our plant, let's forward the time, fast forward the time to give water, just in case. Yeah, there are a certain number of days between each phase of the plant. I don't remember, but I think it's somewhere 20-25 between each phase. So let's do 6. This is eventually going to grow up to harvestable product. Right now, it's still slow. A tomato plant takes between 60 to 90 days. We have to wait to 25 here. Meanwhile, other items in our garden needs our attention. We need to repair things. They are breaking down. So you'll be busy doing other stuff. You won't be fast forwarding the time all the time. Maybe there is some insect problem or some other legal issue that you have to deal with. So now we're in flowering phase. Eventually, this is going to get to harvestable state. As soon as you harvest some fruit, we are going to move you to one of these phases, I believe, and the tutorial will be finished. So we are actually 95% finished in terms of tutorial coverage. We have to fine tune certain aspects of it, but it's moving well. Of course, UI fixes is always an issue. That's always an ongoing task for us. But that's how we are doing the tutorial, and we are very close to having a minimum playable game. Another topic I would like to talk about is the thirst threshold. So let's look at this evaporation test harness or screen. Some of you may remember that a while ago I was working on an equation that is calculating how much evaporation is happening in different units in the game. So like if you give water to your compost unit because it has to have a certain amount of moisture, eventually it's going to dry out. But the same logic can be applied to soil, that how much water your plants need going to be evaporation. So there's a certain style of equation in this format. But inside this queue, there are a lot of factors that go in. And here's a test case. I'll restart this scene so we can discuss some of it. So air temperature, wind speed, air pressure, and relative humidity. These are 4 major determining factors about how much water is evaporated over a period of time. So every hour we have some water evaporating. This is also depending on how wide the surface area is. In the case of a compost unit that has an open lid, we have evaporation speeding up. We can add more water to the compost unit. So the goal is to keep the marker here over the green zone. To add more water, more water, more water to be on the safe side. Too much water will make it too wet, so that the chemical process is not going to happen. Now that we have the hourly rates calculated, we could easily turn this into minute by minute. That's what we do in the game. Passage of time, the sun's movement, and the shadows are done by the minute. But we have a very good baseline here. The remaining part here is to work out the material addition to the pile, so that if you keep adding brown and green material, you're essentially changing the requirement of this compost unit, so that like whether it needs more water, but how much water it needs, that has to be based on material composition as well. And also if it's raining, it's also gaining extra water, and the lid, whether it's closed or not, is also going to help. So we have this horizontal threshold component successfully implemented working case. So this is going to be uh, utilized. This scene is eventually going to be, let's click this area so I can this see it. So we could easily turn that horizontal component into the vertical case. It's about following the values. So these equations will be stretched to other examples such as water, I think sunlight. Forgot the other case. One is acidity. So we have four basic condition types. So we are actually getting to a certain point that we are following things and we are visually displaying things a bit more clearly to the plate. So that's the compost water test harness and the calculation. If you are curious about how that work is done, you could watch the dev stream about that. Essentially, it's a whole bunch of equations. We are doing some calculation. I can just show you a quick look at it. Takes into account a whole bunch of input variables, and there's calculation, and eventually it does its thing. Besides this, I have to check out a different branch for this. I will discard these changes so I can go back to this branch. Okay. Kind of a side project, but it's part of Urban Farmer effort. We've been using our plugin. It was attached to the bottom panel here. So other systems that are attached to the bottom panel in Godot, you enable them by clicking their titles, clicking them again, them. So we had a plugin system here. We now have moved it to this upper part here. So it is behaving like a main system. This is essentially the same set of plugins that we had earlier. But we are working out this new plugin system. This work is going to replace asset factories functionality as well as something like this, which is a color picker. That will be grouping a set of colors under certain names, and will be most likely exposing other properties to visual representation like this. I believe this is going to be helpful that people who don't necessarily know the data structure, but they have a basic understanding of uh, uh, which items here belong to which categories. The planting can actually have herbs, mushrooms, and vegetables. Doesn't make sense that planting is going to be connected to structures. So people with less knowledge of the game can still create game items. This way, we can actually work on data input as well. And this is going to be connected to different game objects. In the case of vegetables, tomato, we will have different varieties of tomato, so they will be branching out here. And because it might be there might be too many items here, it might be too difficult to visualize everything. This structure will most likely be followed by some kind of shortcut, and it's going to be done in its own tab here. So this will be replaced by a name shortcut that is basically indicating that when I'm adding a new variety, I'm actually essentially adding a tomato group, which is connected to vegetables and planting. I don't need to know this connection as long as that I know I'm adding a variety to a tomato group. We should be good. So then in this screen, again, this is going to be done. think I can delete this because I was able to delete functionality. But here, for tomato, which is a vegetable group, maybe all vegetables share a certain group of properties. They have different phases, different growth phases. Nutrition levels are important. Diseases and some custom information related to vegetables. But if the variety we are adding is a structural type, then that should present its own schema that you're only filling out structure type data points. So there has to be some kind of like smart form presented to the developer or to the data entry person. So besides building the game, we are also building some tools that will help us build the game for the November demo, but this is more of a post-November topic, but we believe this is still going to be important for us to make the November demo. So I think this covers all the topics that I wanted to discuss today. If you have comments, let us know. Some things you would like to see in the game, some things that you like or you don't like, or you have questions about how some things will function. And if you haven't wishlisted, please do. It helps us. And thank you, and see you on the next one. Bye bye.